Hello, Seth.
Woo! Coach D.
Happy Thursday.
Hey, great Thursday, man. Vested community, how are you? What's up, man?
Hey, man. Happy Thursday. It is Vested time. Time to inspire, create, and empower. See, I got that now. I don't trip over it anymore. It's because we do this, Jamar. We do this now. So this is an interesting topic. Tonight, we get to talk about death. But we have a really cool, unique, special guest tonight. And the
Super
thing
special.
about, oh, man. Okay, like goosebumps, chills special. But the reason we brought her on is because it's not necessarily this traditional concept of death that she brings up that she's going to talk about with us tonight. It's about the way she lives into the idea of the unknown. And she has a couple of really awesome guides and opportunities and things for us to learn from. So let's go through this a little. Jamal, what do you think, man? I mean, there's this idea of not getting up tomorrow. How do you feel about all that? I mean, that's a pretty big thing.
Man, that is like, how do you answer that question? You know, I believe, remember, all beliefs are welcome here, right? But I'm very bold about my belief. I believe that there is a creator of the universe, and there is a time that we all have, and no one knows that time. And when that time comes, it comes. You know, so we don't know if we're only guaranteed this moment right here. The past is already gone. We can't change it. We're present in the moment, and we're hopeful for the future, but no one's guaranteed another moment. You know, that's just reality, man.
Well, Jamar, tonight we're going to talk about not just dying, but growing into the unknown. But I thought before we did that, we should kind of like lean on a general idea about how most people think, and I would be lying if I didn't say that I kind of thought this way a little bit sometimes too before I kind of leaned into this whole surrender idea. But Jamar, don't worry, but we'll play a little video here about what most people experience when they're thinking about this whole grief process. Here you go.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Uh-oh. It's no big deal. It's probably not even quicksand. I'm gonna have a good laugh about this tonight with you guys. Well, this is just perfect. Stupid quicksand, stupid jungle. I want to bite someone in the face. Mother. Ah, that stupid jungle. Are you there, God? It's me, Giraffe. Listen, if you would just give me a mulligan on this quicksand thing, I promise. No more peeing on your shorter creatures. What, you get a deal? You know something? I'm cool with this. I bet heaven has all the tender leaves I can eat, and everyone gets their own Slurpee machine. Yeah, take me, sweet death. I await your loving embrace. What? I think I hit the bottom.
Where'd you get that one from?
You know me, man. I like cartoons. We're dealing with a heavy subject tonight, so I thought, like, let's lighten up a little bit with, a giraffe and some quicksand. But the cool part is this evening we get to deal with a whole different perspective. I mean, I fall into that idea in that category. I have before in the past, and I know a lot of people can relate to it. What about you, man? We go through these phases, and we think we got it, and our faith is really tested, and that's what happens.
No, absolutely, man. You think about it as this thought, this frequency and vibration we're talking on tonight. It's something that no person is immune to, right? It's an event that we all will experience at some point in time. Yes, we're all hopeful for the longest journey of life, quality life as we can, but it's something that every person is going to experience. And it's really not topics of conversation that you're having just to go out and have lunch and let's talk about the death conversation, right? But I know tonight we're going to make it very magical with the message on this phase of life and what happens. And I'm excited to see what kind of supernatural power is brought tonight, man. And I got a question before we started, man. What was the inspiration for this frequency tonight?
Jamar, I met with this special person at a party a couple of weekends ago, and she was quote unquote grieving because she had just lost her second husband. And I was having a conversation with her at a table, and it just blew me away by how alive she felt. And alive. And I was like, how in the, so she is a master, man. She has figured out how to take this vibrational frequency within this meat suit and be able to expand on a level that I'm really interested to ask her questions about. So let's bring this master in now, my friend. Diana Wentworth, she is a New York Times best-selling author, like double-digit status. Okay, she's been on Oprah. She has cookbooks. She's been on television. She has television show. Okay, let's just bring her on. My friend, Diana Wentworth.
Woo! Hold on. Wait, hold on. Let me.
I set you up pretty big, Diana. I think that you're a special guest, and I can't wait to really ask you some special questions about inspiration, creativity, and empowerment. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here.
Yes. Wow.
Well, this
We're
is
here.
community. This Jamar. This is my friend Diana Jamar. This is Vested. How should we jump into this? We do the inspire, create, and empower thing, but usually we let the guests kind of get a little comfortable. Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. Well, I lived a long time, and I've had an amazing life. And I've had knowings of things that were going to happen before they happened, which were very instrumental in my life. And sometimes I tell this story about how when I was a sophomore at UCLA, I was in a sorority, and the gals there, there were 10 other gals in the room, and I said, can you turn down the music? And somebody said, no, Diana doesn't like Elvis Presley. And I had this sudden knowing, and I said, actually, I do like him, and I'm going to date him someday, which really surprised everybody. I mean, it just kind of, it was like a frog jumped out of my mouth. And 2 months later, my mother took me to Paris. We were on a tour. We were staying at a hotel called the Prince de Galles, and this young fellow from our tour came running up to me and said, Diana, Elvis Presley's in the dining room, and I'm too scared to ask him for his autograph. And so I went up to him. The dining room was closed. He was there with 2 bodyguards, and he was in his army uniform. And so I said, hi, I'm Diana Webb from Beverly Hills, and Bobby would love you to have your autograph. And long story short, he invited me to go to the Lido nightclub with him that night. And I got to do that. And I actually got to date him 3 more times over the next 2 years. So
wow,
how did I know that? Where did that even come from? So I tell that story not because it was the coolest thing in the world to date Elvis Presley, but because there's something inside of us that can feel the right direction for our life to go. And we begin to expect a certain amount of magic in our life. And that has been true for me. I have had the most amazing life. Many years ago, I was engaged to a very, very wealthy man. I had no idea how wealthy he was at the time, but I suddenly knew that I wasn't supposed to marry this man. And I broke the engagement, and my parents were going to Asia the next day. I went along on the trip to Asia, was standing in a hotel lobby at 7 in the morning in Hong Kong. Off the elevator walks a man that I instantly know is going to be important to me. 3 days later, we're engaged. And
Diana,
wow,
I'm the one. I know. This is the hardest part about the show. I don't like this part, Jamar. I have to. We do the inspire, create, and empower, and this is the inspire thing. This is where it all started. So we have to drop the banner thing, Diana. So I'm sorry, I have to stop you, but okay. Jamar's gonna be one of those type of shows. I did not know she dated Elvis Presley. It's just she's one of those type of women. It's one of those type of shows. That's what we're gonna do. Let's inspire. We gotta do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's time. She threw us right up into it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Elvis.
Diana. So we'll do
We're back.
as we're back. We did a little inspire thing, and then we got just two more. They're gonna come from up there. We're gonna create and we're gonna empower. But let's start here. What we do on the show is we try to inspire from a place that really is where your light kind of generated from, and how you radiate it up. But we got to go back, and you have already started us there. But we have a little video here that we're going to kind of lean into. That is, I mean, it will definitely support the idea of where you were going with this, but it's really about the main theme that we're going to kind of get to here. So let's roll it real quick, and then we'll have a little conversation right after that.
Okay.
There's all kinds of different ways to break. You can break physically, you can break mentally, you can break your heart, you can break your spirit, and none of those are fun, and all of those are going to leave a mark. But the mark that they leave can be the mark of victory, or it can be the mark of defeat. Because every time you break, and in every way that you break, while it's a chance, it's definitely a chance for you to give up and for you to just to fall apart. But there's also opportunity. There's opportunity to get stronger, and get smarter, and get faster, and get tougher, and get more stable, and get more resilient, and get better.
Wow. Get better.
Okay, so Diana, you're painting us this picture right now, and from going from dating Elvis Presley to a man that walks right towards you as elevated, you're in this manifestation process where everything looks like it's moving in a really good direction, and things are awesome. So let's continue with that story, because we got to kind of get to where there starts to be bumps in the road, and it gets a little difficult, because I have some questions about that.
Okay. Well, let's skip ahead. My late husband, Paul von Welanetz, and I were married for 25 years. And we had this amazing career where we wrote books on cooking and entertaining. We had our own show on Lifetime. We had a school on Sunset Boulevard. We rode that whole thing. I was like the West Coast Martha Stewart. And then we went on a trip into the Soviet Union. Our career was falling apart. We had no idea what we were going to do. And we ended up starting an organization called The Inside Edge, which has now been in existence for 35 years, and which really we've featured 1,500 of the most motivational speakers in the world. And Jack Canfield has said recently that there would be no Chicken Soup for the Soul series if it hadn't been for The Inside Edge. And it launched the career of many, many wonderful people. But
Wow.
Okay, see.
4 years into that, my late husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So that was the beginning of a whole new adventure in experiencing that in an amazing way, and also feeling his presence and his guidance. And he said, "I don't want you to be alone." And I said, "Send me someone." And he said, I will. And he did.
Wow. What greater testament of love is that, when someone knows that they're exiting natural life and they're leaving a loved one, the woman, the love of his life behind. Like, how else do you express love?
Yeah, it was amazing. I could feel him so present. I could journal with him. I would feel him in the car with me. He told me to turn here, park here, go into this building. There were all sorts of things that happened. And within 2 months, a man walked into the Inside Edge who had lost his wife to cancer as well. And some things began to happen between us that were very eerie, and real signs that this was who Paul had sent me. So I was remarried within 8 months, and I married Ted Wentworth, and we were married for almost 32 years. And then he just passed 7 weeks ago in a very magnificent way. And he and I actually had trained to become end-of-life doulas, which is something that's beyond hospice. It's something where you sit with people who are going to make their transition and you help them plan their vigil scene and to make it as meaningful as possible for their loved ones. So it's something that we did very consciously. We were very interested in death and what would be happening because we had a lot of faith from our own experience that it's not the end.
Man.
Okay. Diana, in this section, one of the things that we do is we try to expose the vulnerability side of what inspired us to be this and how we had the strength to move into these phases of our lives. So if we could just rewind back real quick, because I don't want to skip too far forward, but you had moved into a story that you had felt in your heart that was significant to you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I definitely wanted to know where that story had, where its roots were and how it inspired you to move through this life the way that you did and to get to your two husbands. So can we go back to that just real quick, and can you just brush upon it real quick?
Hey, give me a better reminder of where it was in the story that you wanted to.
So you were talking about you were walking down a certain walkway and you had seen a guy come right out towards you from an elevator, and then I was like, wait, we got to do the inspire.
Uh-huh. It was an amazing thing. It was like I felt like it was like I had a volleyball hit in my stomach. It was, I recognized him somehow. And we had this amazing marriage where we were like one person. We were a team. We had our own show. We had amazing number of people who came to us to learn how to cook and entertain and everything. And it was like we were one soul almost. Mm-hmm. A twin soul, perhaps. Whereas when he passed and he said he was going to send me someone, there are all these amazing stories that happened that could not possibly, there is a picture of me and my late husband, with our cookbooks. Thank you.
Diana, talk to me about that. That volleyball feeling that you said. I want to explore that a little bit. So you had this overwhelming feeling like right when you met that guy, and I think a lot of us run into these experiences in our lives and we don't really know how to interpret it, and living into it is basically what you did. But talk to me a little bit more about was it a passion? Was it a pit in your stomach? Was it butterflies? How did that drive you to want more out of your life with him?
What was so weird was I woke up that morning. It was very early and the tour wasn't going out until 9 o'clock. The restaurant didn't open until 8. But for some reason, I got totally dressed up. I went down and stood in the lobby at 7 and I was saying, what am I even doing here? And then these two men walked out of the elevator and one of them was called to the phone, and that left Paul standing very close to me. He told me later that he had followed me to the elevator the night before in the restaurant, and the elevator closed in his face. So I don't know how to describe this as anything other than destiny. We were absolutely meant to have this amazing life together. And it was just nourishing on every level.
Wow.
What have you got? There he is. Yeah.
So Diana, that was 25 years of marriage. And it sounds like it was a supernatural encounter where, like you said, destiny, where you just had the feeling, like you just said it previously, we can feel the right direction to go, right? And Coach D, I like how you said it's like we don't all know how to interpret those feelings, right? Like, what is that unction? What is that feeling to go forward? But if we fast forward and you said you guys were, when he received the news that he was terminally ill, at that time, how did you guys digest that as a couple with the news at that time that things were maybe going to end shorter than expected?
Well, he wanted to believe that he could have all these treatments and everything and that it was going to work. A doctor had told me confidentially that it wasn't going to work. And I didn't feel like it was my job to tell him about that. So there was a lot of denial and everything that went on. But then there was this day that he suddenly looked at me and he said, I don't want you to be alone. And I said, send me someone. And he said, I will. And I could tell by the way he said it that, you know, that he really believed that when we pass, that we are suddenly able to be everywhere, that we can kind of manipulate nature, and that we can travel and, you know, and be anywhere. And I felt that immediately, even as I walked out of the hospital the night he passed. I felt him right there with me, and there were all sorts of amazing signs that came, and that my new husband also picked up. He could feel him almost come into him and have him say certain things that he couldn't possibly have known.
Wow.
So there were, it was pretty amazing. It was really amazing, actually.
Did you try again?
Jamar, this is where we move to create, I think, because okay, now this is what I was kind of talking about, Diana, before, is it's very hard to be inspired by somebody telling you that the person that you love and that you're creating with is going to end, and then for you guys to together come up with a way to be able to do this. I can't wait to get into the create section, because this is an interesting approach towards how you can take something like that, turn it into inspiration, and create from a place that is completely unknown, but to have the faith that you can do it together. So let's do it. Let's create. Do the thing.
Wow.
There we go. That's the thing.
Create.
Only one more. We only got one more.
What are we
Okay,
creating,
so-
Coach D?
Oh, listen. No, this is when we turn to the master. Okay, so you're letting go of your friend, your best friend, and you said, send me someone. So before we talk about what you created physically with your hand, your talents, and your mind and your soul, tell me what happened when you said, send me somebody, and you're quote unquote grieving. What happened?
Well, I started journaling with him, and he would tell me to go in certain stores or certain things to happen. And the night before a picnic at the Inside Edge, he told me to buy a squirt gun. And I thought it was such a silly idea. I couldn't even believe it that I had to go out and find a squirt gun. It was night, and the toy store was closing and everything. I buy the squirt gun. I go to the picnic the next day. There are 200-300 people there, and I was squirting people with this squirt gun, feeling really stupid. And this one man walked in, is Ted Wentworth, and I squirted him, and it was almost like it was like a moment of magic. And he came running after me. I had no idea that he was the person who loved squirt guns. He had about 50 squirt guns, and he had one almost something that was pretty big to him. And so, long story short, he chased me, grabbed my squirt gun, squirted me in the face, and invited me out to dinner. And that was the beginning of a whole new wild ride, Mr. Toad, because there were so many magical moments in which he could feel Paul. He could do things that Paul would have said that he couldn't possibly have known about. He was dropping money in the street, which is something that Paul always did. He wanted people to have good luck, you know, and find a coin. And there was, do I have a minute to tell you a story that was pretty
Absolutely.
Yeah. My late husband was very artistic, and he noticed everything visual, whereas Ted didn't at all. He was very kinesthetic. He could feel emotions, but he was not visual at all. And so we were walking into a department store, and Ted suddenly said, Diana, those earrings. And I thought, Ted noticing earrings? This is just weird, because I mean, I had even put in some green contact lenses to see if he would even notice. It was so strange that he didn't notice anything visually. And I said, what about the earrings? And he said, those daisy earrings over there. And I look over, and there's all these different color daisy earrings. And I suddenly remembered that when I first married Paul, he had given me a pair of white daisy earrings with yellow centers.
Wow.
And I hadn't thought about them in many, many years. So I said, which ones? He says, the white daisy earrings with the yellow centers. I said, what about them? He said, Paul wants you to have those earrings. Now, he never met Paul, you know, and so it was like this moment of, oh, I get it, you know, and
Right.
it was, hey, I get it.
That's the supernatural, right? That's
Yeah.
the supernatural.
There's a lot of that.
But I have a question for you, Diana, because you have a very common theme about your story, is that you were open to receive the message,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you go back to say when you were we took on journaling with Paul, and you would hear these unctions and thoughts and feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and you would act upon them despite how silly they seemed at the time. Like you said, you got a message to go buy a squirt gun, water gun, right?
Yeah.
And then you meet Ted, and he's a collector of water guns.
There were so many signs. They were overwhelming. And I do think it is a matter of being open. I think I was receptive because of that old story I told you about, knowing that I was going to meet Elvis Presley. I trusted a sudden knowing, and I've always been open to that. So I've always been willing to take a step into the unknown and see what happens.
Has anyone ever told you that you're a prophetic woman?
I know that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know that. I know that. Like, I just like this short time together. You know, I already know that. You know.
Yeah.
Do you
learn to trust it? I think that's the important thing. That if we trust it and we don't just brush it aside when we have this sudden whim, or it just doesn't seem like it makes sense.
Do you think?
Logically.
I have a question. Do you think that we all have the ability to create prophecy in our life?
I do. I think that we can learn to journal and listen to guides, or listen to angels, listen to the divine, ask questions and wait for an inkling or a feeling, and begin to really tune into that. It's almost like speaking a secret language, that we have to be open and receptive to what we can know, and being able to move into divine right action. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that our thoughts create our reality, and that we can tune in and receive information if we culture that ability.
Speaking of growing into the unknown, I was telling you, Diana, in the pre-production, that I found a little video that just reminded me of our conversation, which inspired me to have you on the show. And I'm going to go ahead and play it here. And when we're done, I want to get into some of these really cool unknown experiences that when you leave yourself open, it creates this space where all kind of stuff happens, and you might understand it and you might not. But you know what? Every once in a while, if you pull out your iPhone, you take pictures of it. But we'll get to that. First, let's roll the film, and then we can talk about why I might have picked that, and you'll know right away. So, tech team.
Man.
Yeah, so I think you know why I played that video, right? Okay, now real quick, before we get into the reason why I played it, I want to go into the creation portion of what you created with this whole Send Me Someone. You wrote a book called Send Me Someone.
I did.
We obviously know how you were inspired by that, but what made you want to put it, on paper, words to page? Like what inspired you to actually share it with the world as something so intimate and special?
Well, I did a lot of research. Most people believe they've had some kind of an experience of someone who's passed showing up in some special way. And there was so much that happened, so much proof that happened, that I really felt I wanted to tell that story. So it took me It took me 5 years to write that book. I had to learn how to presence, as a fiction writer almost, with the bringing the story with the dialogue and really making people feel they were part of the story. So, and then I sold it to Lifetime as a film. So,
wow,
that was really quite an amazing experience. And I used to joke with my husband Ted, and I'd say, if I got mad at him, I'd say, I'm going to write a sequel to that book, and it's going to be called Send Me Someone Else. And he loved that. We would laugh about that. So, but his whole passing was very different, and there were some real things, some signs that showed up that really surprised me.
Well, speaking of signs, we have a couple of pictures here, and I think the best community is going to know why I played that video once we show these pictures. Now, tech team, if you could throw these pictures up, and if we could just kind of rifle through a couple of them, will you walk us through these, Diana, and tell me what we're seeing here? Look at this, Vested.
This is my robe. I'm sitting in my meditation chair, and these are orbs. You'll show another picture of the orbs on the chair. I was walking past my meditation chair, and I looked over, and this is what I saw. I have never seen anything like this in our house before. We've lived here 7 years. And so these began to show up within a day or two, right after Ted passed. And they have stayed. Wow. They show up when I'm thinking about him, especially. And this is just a selfie that I took of myself sitting in the
That's chair. Crazy. It's dark behind you. Like you.
I know.
It's like you want to say, okay, the other one's no window that it's shining through. Like they just and
it's totally weird.
And you spoke about this. You before he passed, you said, okay, you guys communicated with each other about letting each other know from the other side that he's there, correct? This happened, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. He had said that he would always be with me and never leave me. And whenever I think of him, I feel something, or something really different will show up. I have a picture that really scared his daughter. She had a pillow on her bed that was kind of a velour pillow, and she was alone in the apartment, and she walked past, and here was this giant handprint. Ted had huge hands, and then she took pictures of her hand inside of that handprint, and it was just so much bigger. There are all sorts of signs, and they're still coming. So,
wow.
I feel really strong. Yeah.
Before we move on to empowerment, we kind of brushed over something real quick, but I wanted to ask you a question. Can you take the feeling that you had when you were overwhelmed when you met your first husband, and maybe it was euphoric, maybe it was the I don't know, hair in the wind, whatever. And can you compare it with the feeling that you had that motivated you to write the book that you wrote? I mean, were they the same? Were they different? Were they the opposite sides of each other?
I was always, my whole life, determined to have a very intimate, loving partnership marriage, because I had a very abusive father, and it was just something that I really wanted. And when I saw him and looked at him, it was as if, oh, okay, this is probably it. And he had followed me the night before. So we both had this sudden, okay, there was just absolutely receiving it. It was like a waking up into the future that we dreamed of. And
Wow.
then writing the book, gosh, I wish I could say it was easy. 5 years of trying to put the feelings in there that people would really feel and get and understand the depth of that relationship and the overwhelming joy of discovering each other and the overwhelming loss of losing each other in the physical. But discovering that it went on and it was still there.
This is the empowerment Jamara was
Right.
talking about. This is what I was telling you about. Like, yes, I was inspired to bring her on the show, but there's no way that you could account for how in a live interview will bring something out of somebody when they share two of those extraordinarily intimate moments. And that was with the first husband. And then with the second husband now, to communicate from the other side and to have visual evidence and to be here to be able to share it with us. That's as empowering as it gets. And if we can now move to that section, I mean, we should have a video. I have a video. We could put a video on the empowerment video. I have one.
We got a video. Let's do
it. I will put it on there.
Before we move on, Diana, how have you been able to, as we're in this empowering section, how have you been able to stay empowered through two major losses in your life of these amazing men that were life partners? How did you stay? How are you staying light and vibrant?
I have complete faith and belief that nothing really bad ever happens to us, that every single thing is an opportunity to grow and learn. That I know that. I know it to the bottom of my soul, and trust that. Yes, there were terrible things that happened in my life. I had a lot of losses that we haven't even had time to go into, but I always believe that something good is growing all the time. And sometimes it's it's really, really hard to keep going. But I make up my mind every single day when I get out of bed to ask myself, where's the most joy that can be found today? How can I serve? What can I do that is going to be so amazing today? What magic is going to happen today? So I live in this expectation and this anticipation that the stepping stones will be revealed to me that will help me grow and become a more expansive, loving person every single day.
Wow. And that's powerful right there. You said, believe that something good is growing all the time.
All the time. It is. No matter what we're going through, that there's an opportunity to expand ourselves and become more of who we are as divine beings in the world.
Coach D, I got one more question, Coach D. One more question. Diana, well, I actually got a few more, but one more right now. Diana, how do you encourage, empower someone who is not at the revelatory stage that you're at with understanding what you know about life-ending process? Like, how would you communicate to someone who may not be exposed to the growth of what you've been exposed to with transition of life?
Well, I have all my life spent time reading and listening to motivational people, absorbing as much as I can. I'm very much a believer in the law of attraction and how our thoughts affect our vibration, and our vibration affects what comes to us. And so I purposely live in a vibration of expectancy, of growth and joy and awakening that has to be cultivated. It takes a lot of courage. Sometimes it's just way too easy to wake up in the morning and fall into a depression or fall into despair. It's seductive even, but we need to have the courage to at least open the door by asking, what is it that can be revealed to me today that I can be a beacon in this world. I can be a fountain to have our energy flow outward and spark other people to wake up and to be positive and to heal and to want to affect other people in that way, so that we're always sparking other people and letting people know that they're beautiful. You know, it's I guess that's it.
Wow.
All right, Jamal, I have to do it, because you know how it works when we have masters on this show. It's not like the masters are going to sit there and toot their own horn, but this person, she just lightly grazed upon this just little organization that she started called the Inside Edge. We have people like Don Miguel Ruiz there, Jack Canfield, Bruce Lipton. We're talking about absolute swingers. Okay, so she doesn't just eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff and project it out into the world. She rubs elbows with the people that do the same thing. So it's not about talking it. It's not about thinking about it. It's absolutely living it with every ounce of your soul. And it's really hard to follow a master with all the things that you just said. But the video I brought up has Alan Watts in the background. And I know he'd be a guest at the Inside Edge if he were still with us. But at the same time, he laid the foundation. Did you meet Alan Watts? You probably did. Did you meet Alan Watts?
No, I didn't, but I've been a fan all my life. Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably the one. I found the one. So, okay, we'll roll the video, and then just some final thoughts on where we're at, because everything that you said so far has been incredibly empowering, and it's not necessarily words, but how you've really lived into even this very interview, about how you've been extraordinarily candid to be vulnerable and share these very difficult times and experiences with us so that we can grow as well. Jamar, your question was awesome, because think about your daughter. I mean, she's growing into this world, and she can't really relate to something like death at this point. She's on the front end of this really long existence, and she does it right. And the messages that we're able to share amongst each other through our experiences, Diana, are just incredible. And I thank you so much for thinking intimately about this. And let's do Alan Watts and rambling. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Don't be afraid. You're going to make it. But it's always going to feel as if you aren't. But that's the fun, you see. That's all children love to take risks. They like roaring around in hot rods or on those skateboards and things like that. It's terribly dangerous. But that courting of danger is life. Tillich calling it the courage to be. So when we get older and we think, oh Lord, for heaven's sakes. I just celebrated my 50th birthday. And I realize I made it through half a century. And I can't make out whether I'm just getting older or getting wiser. I mean, I do think, for the nature has certain merciful processes in it. And that it, for example, for a person in extreme pain, the pain can be converted into ecstasy. A person who is starving can begin to feel its way out. And same way as you get older, maybe you do in a funny way get wiser and feel more at peace with yourself. You've accepted yourself with all your limitations, and you begin to understand more and more your connection with the total cosmos.
Wow.
I love it.
Okay, so full circle. Let's go right back to what inspired me to have you on the show was the conversation that we had a couple of weekends ago at that dinner table. You're so alive. You're so alive. Yep. And we had this conversation about legacy, and you've been in my head and in my heart ever since we had that conversation, and it made me reflect upon myself and my own legacy and tech team and Jamara. I mean, it's who you love. It's how you share the things that you love with the people that you love. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of that, Diana. And if you're going to give somebody a takeaway for Jamar's daughter, for me right now, for my wife, for Jamar, for everybody listening, what would be the takeaway? What's the secret?
Really look at your life. Look at your life now. I'm 80 years old. I just turned 80.
Come on.
Yeah.
80 going on 40. 80 going on 40.
I want people to create their own legacy page. Think about this now at your age, and even your daughter, Jamar. Mm-hmm. Have her think about how she wants her life to be remembered here, and start creating a page that gives that story, and live that, grow into that. move into how we can be the most giving, loving fountains of inspiration and joy into this world, and how we can live that life. Just live in that question and make your life your legacy. And keep your focus on that. I mean, let's do away with obituaries. Let's create tribute pages to people's lives that really celebrate who they have been and what their gifts have been.
Wow.
What
That was a mic drop.
Yeah, a boom, just like that. Well, listen, thank you for this moment. Thank you for being on the show. I love you, tech team. I love you, Jamar, Diana. I love this moment. I love you. Thank you so very much. Now I pass it over to my boy Jamar. He has a little final wrap up and possibly a few questions for it, and then a question for everybody. Oh man.
Oh man. Diana, thank you so much for your heart and your spirit. And you have just you gave us a fraction, a microscopic fiber of your wisdom and your knowledge that you have. And so just thank you for sharing that with us and the Vested community. But tech team, are we going to recap some points? Because there's some points here that I think that were said tonight, that what could be a few takeaways that the amazing Diana shared tonight. And the first thing she said, we can feel the right direction to go. And I want to encourage myself. I want to encourage the Vested community to tune in and tap into that unction, that intuition, that voice, that volleyball in your stomach, as she called it. Because I truly believe that we are guided every day to make decisions. It just we have so much noise and life going on that we may not always be present. And number two, believe that something good is growing all the time. Diana said, despite the challenge, the adversity, the setback, believe that something is good, something good is growing. And I don't know if you ever heard this, that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. But if we don't believe that things are working for our good, then how they're going to work out for us. And number three, check this out. Our thoughts and vibrations affect what comes to us. And man, think about the world today, everyone's thoughts and their vibrations and what we're attracting into our life. And it all starts with creating that and that thought, and how powerful our thoughts are, because our like Nikola Tesla said, that the universe operates in energy, frequency, and vibration. And vibrations are real. And this last point right here, what she just said, let's make our life our legacy. And that right there, I think that was so powerful, especially for someone like my daughter, who is a much younger generation. But what if our children were being taught that message? So I just want to tell you, thank you so much for being here. And Coach D, thank you for bringing the universe together. Diana, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Coach D, should we ask him?
We should ask him.
Hey.
Make sure you ask him.
Hey, listen, Vested, our goal here is to talk about being vested in life. And you see here, we have a person, amazing human being that's vested in the magic and the supernatural experience of life, and what she manifested in her life. She's, as you can see, vested in that belief. But it doesn't matter what you're doing right now in your life, whatever you're doing, whatever you want to manifest, whatever supernatural magic you want to create, here's the question: are you vested?